Hello, my dear friends and colleagues. For well over a year, I studied the musical upbringing, musical philosophies, and career of Dr. Ronald Staheli, focusing mostly on his time at Brigham Young University from 1978 to 2015. The culminating tome is entitled Ronald J. Staheli and the Choral Art, Risking Total Commitment for an Achingly Glorious Beauty. I hope our venturing into this remarkable man's approach to music creation will inspire each of us to become better musicians and teachers. From 1978 to 2015, Dr. Staheli established himself as one of the great choral conductors of all time. I say that not as a potentially biased former student, because I never was one, but now as the documenter of his most remarkable career. Dr. Staheli never tried to be a choral music influencer. He conceded, "I never intentionally try to be different. I never try to be an anomaly, never trying to set a standard per se. I love music. I love making music. I love expressing music." Dr. Staheli was first and foremost interested in bringing beauty into the world. He wanted to surround himself with beauty in everything he did. He taught the need to find beauty wherever it may be. "When you look at anything," he said, "do not just look at it, but see it, and look for the beauty. Embrace the beauty around it." But there is a cost to making beauty with that level of magnificent beauty. As choral conductors, there is something required of us. His dear friend and colleague Rosalind Hall expressed this sentiment when I interviewed her about Dr. Staheli. "Nobody at the Royal Academy of Music had required of me what Ron Staheli required of me. Nobody. Not at any time during my 4 years at the Royal Academy, and it was demanding. It was challenging in many, many ways, but no. Nobody required me to dig as deeply as Ron Staheli did, and, he digs deeply himself. He expects everybody else who is in the profession to do the same thing, and if you're not digging deeply, you have no business being there. Because choral music is worthy of your utmost effort." That is what he told us. This approach was not about self-aggrandizement, but because music has the capacity to serve as a surpassing force of power, beauty, and inspiration. If something, and in this case music, has that potential, he taught that it requires our greatest efforts to achieve the greatest of artistic possibilities. To achieve this potential, Dr. Staheli understood the need to balance science and art in the creation of music. In June 1996, during a speech he gave at BYU called "The Comprehending Soul, Open Minds and Hearts," he quoted New York Times music critic Bernard Holland as saying, "The sincerest passions do little good without the thoughtful application of detail." Dr. Staheli then added his own statement, "Performances founded only in the emotion of music often become reckless, confusing, or maudlin, whereas performances based only on the science or techniques of music making are wooden, mechanical, cerebral." He maintained that true art cannot manifest itself without technical aptitude. This unification of science and art gave Dr. Staheli's music flexibility. Performances could be living, evolving experiences. He was about creation, not duplication. In my research, I found 3 prodigious artistic pillars of Dr. Staheli and BYU Singers. These are in 2 documents that Dr. Staheli wrote. the BYU Singers psyche, and the primary goal and mission of BYU Singers. And then through the responses of former students and colleagues, the united artistry, tone, and diction of BYU Singers. The psyche was developed early on after the creation of BYU Singers in 1984. It was meant to be a unifier, a model of ethics for each member of Team BYU Singers. To harness a oneness mentality, he expected each member of BYU Singers to demonstrate buy-in to these principles. It was a template of constancy, a paradigm for life, and a way for the ensemble to support one another. Dr. Staheli outlined the following principles found in the psyche. 1. Be aware. Listen hard with heart and ears. Watch carefully. See the intent as well as the actual action. Touch joyfully. Connect. Allow yourself to be fully invested and committed to life. Feel deeply. Don't sequester yourself from life. Don't insulate yourself by holding life and people at a safe distance. Give freely. Express rather than impress. Give without concern for credit or recognition. What are your motives? 2. Be fierce. Live with full intention. 3. Take risks. Everything is sweetened by risk. 4. Take responsibility. It is easy to feel sad, gloomy, put upon. One must take responsibility for her or his own outlook and risk being happy in spite of everything. Take that risk. Take that responsibility. Choose to feel great. Choose to be up and at life with verve and spirit. 5. Be whole. Practice wellness. Be unified within yourself. Being whole involves coordination of body, mind, and heart. 6. Be a make-it-happen person. Be proactive. Live on purpose with full intention. Each of these principles are treated more fully in the dissertation, and the full BYU Singer Psyche document is included there. Later in his career, Dr. Staheli outlined their goal and mission as an ensemble. Our goal is to be a unified, closely integrated, technically adroit, highly expressive ensemble or team, able to communicate heartfelt truth, beauty, hope, goodwill, and morality in a passionate, honest, compelling manner that captivates, lifts, and ennobles fellow singers and audience members near and far, but also our individual selves. This overarching goal was supported by smaller goals that were outlined in this goal and mission document. These smaller goals were based on 9 values important to Dr. Staheli: spiritual preparation, the importance of rehearsal, taking responsibility, your role in the whole ensemble on the team, a close-knit team, passion, creativity, generosity, and good influence. Like the psyche, this document is found in its entirety within the dissertation, and Dr. Staheli explains his rationale for each point. Within the context of these goals, Dr. Staheli challenged his singers to think of each performance as a gift to the listener, as an act of thanksgiving, and he cautioned them never to have the mindset of singing at people. Within the goal and mission document, Dr. Staheli wrote what he called the ideal review. It was a statement that he envisioned audience members would make following BYU Singers' performances if they were to write a review of what they saw and heard. The power of the BYU Singers' performance derives from a purpose so pure, so profound, so focused that they consciously risk total commitment. They personify tact, a consequence of thorough preparation and confidence, a result of faith and trust in each other and in heavenly power. Such tact and confidence allow the singers to perform their art at a tempo sufficiently serene to allow an inherent, achingly glorious beauty to emerge eloquently. Such beauty becomes a statement so astonishingly precise and assertive that it lends their every action a surpassing moral force. Regarding these statements, a BYU Singers alumni and Harvard MBA said, "Having studied many organizations, their mission statements, and others in retrospect, I cannot remember more than a handful of organizations that embodied their mission statement so utterly and completely." Another student stated, "I tell people that I double majored in accounting and information systems, but I learned what I needed to learn in BYU Singers." As I stated before, for Dr. Staheli, artistry was synergy between science and art. High art, he believes, cannot exist without both components. Toward the end of his career, Dr. Staheli was sitting in a rather dull, even frustrating faculty meeting, and began jotting down various musical elements that he wanted BYU Singers to adhere to. He called it Expressive Principles of BYU Singers. 1. Always think musical line, even from the beginning of a work on a piece. Get past just working for correct notes, rhythm, and pronunciation, so you can phrase well, moving toward the top of the phrase and then finishing with finesse. 2. Make long notes interesting. Shape them. Do they grow and diminish, or simply diminish? You can make the sectional sound shimmer by individual singers giving small, subtle crescendi and diminuendi, which are not in sync with the singers around her/him, all the while never spoiling the blend each section is accomplishing. 3. The text must be beautifully shaped. Be aware of the most important words and syllables in your singing. Words work together, just like notes, to make a statement. 2 or more syllable words have a weak, strong, or more challenging, a strong, weak relationship. Our phrase shaping must reflect these relationships. 4. Syllables or words with several notes will almost always be sung legato, not articulated with the breath or in the throat. 5. Singing in singers often requires a different sound than you use in solo singing, especially if you possess a larger voice. Each singer should always ask her/himself, "Am I using the right amount of voice to express the style and meaning of the music? Too much or too little voice greatly impairs the communicative value of our performance." 6. Each singer must always be aware of her/his vibrato, carefully matching it with the section. 7. Always be aware of what is happening musically in the other parts and how your part relates. Is your part of equal importance to others? Is your part more important? Are you complementing, perhaps duetting with another part? Is your part more to be felt than heard? 8. Is your part more rhythmically or melodically conceived? If rhythmically, find means to heighten the rhythmic effect in your singing. 9. Be careful of the comparative range in which you are singing. When women are in lower range while men are in their higher range, or when women are at the top and men at the bottom of their ranges, we will have big balance problems. 10. Keep the resonator open at all times so sound can be beautifully inviting, naturally full, open, round. We need your best natural sound, not something falsely forged. 11. In a suspension, if you have the suspended note sing into it, then falling back in volume when the suspension resolves. 12. Keep the sound always grounded on the breath. Never sing from a platform in your throat as your means of support. 13. Keep descending and repeated notes in tune. When you return to a note, listen to be sure it is in tune. 14. If unsure of a note, aim high, not low. 15. Lead and follow. Follow and lead. 16. If it's something you really want, let it be someone else who tells you no, not you yourself. Though we could treat each one of these 16 points specifically, I would like to demonstrate how studying Dr. Staheli's approach to life, and in turn music making, can be an ongoing learning process. Just recently, a couple of months after the completion of the dissertation, I contacted Dr. Staheli and asked him to expound on point 16 for me. He graciously emailed me the following explanation. I remember a newspaper article of several years ago when Zubin Mehta was conductor of the New York Phil and conductor of the Israel National Philharmonic at the same time. He was asked about the difference in psyche between the two professional orchestras. His answer surprised me in two ways. I was awed that he spoke as candidly as he did, knowing that his words would get back to both orchestras, but I was inspired by what he said. He contrasted the difference in psyches of the two orchestras in terms of orchestral members' infusion of self into their performances. In New York, the individual members follow his gestures well, giving strong performance of their individual parts. But, he said, in Israel, each member brings his own self to their part, not waiting for precise direction from Mehta himself for how their part was to be played. He said that no conductor can shape every note for everyone. So when the orchestra members take it upon themselves to make every musical gesture as beautifully shaped, cohesive, interactive, and synergistic as possible, my words not his, the difference, he said, is extraordinary. I attempted to infuse the Israeli approach in individual members of BYU Singers. If you have clear ideas of how a gesture is to be shaped or sung, do it. Don't wait for me to teach you how to do it. Don't wait for me to say, no. If it doesn't work, we can solve the issue very quickly, especially when you are infusing your performance with such personal commitment, and your efforts will have strong effect on those around you, and indeed through the entire choir. If you want the music to work, if you want to heighten the communicative value of what we are doing, please bring your whole self to everything you do. Don't tell yourself no. Let me be the one to say that, and I will always try to tell you the reason why what you have done doesn't work. If you are feeling it, chances are it is right. What you bring to the experience will be so greatly heightened if you will be free to sing with full heart, brain, and soul. Don't tell yourself no. In teaching artistry and technique, Dr. Staheli made this statement regularly to his graduate students. You're never 2 steps away from tone and text. Tone and text were paramount from the first rehearsal of a piece until the final performance. This philosophy became a Staheli and BYU Singers hallmark. The purity of tone and text informed every decision Dr. Staheli made in rehearsal. Throughout his career, Dr. Staheli was always curious about the individual as well as the ensemble voice. Gene Apolloni said, he never stopped learning about the voice and what would work to get that sound. He was always interested in understanding vocal pedagogy. Dr. Staheli never made excuses about the quality of his singers from one year to another. Though he had the luxury of selecting exceptional singers, he also took responsibility for facilitating great singing. Dr. Staheli's vocal methodology had 9 particular facets. I will only mention a few. Freedom of voice. He taught the natural freedom of airflow and used vocabulary that painted a feeling. Loftiness, buoyancy, resonance, support, loose jaws, cheekbones, inner smile, and eyeballs. Vocal freedom meant internal height and lift in the voice. He encouraged the ease of singing from the top down, not from the bottom up. Round, spatial singing. Dr. Staheli wanted BYU singers to embrace the sound. He never wanted the ensemble to cross what he called the beauty line. In order to help BYU singers realize round spatial singing, Dr. Staheli would instruct his ensemble members to look at and listen to each other. He would ask if there was an edge in the sound. Aural awareness would then prompt singers to make quick adjustments. Vowel matching. To assist with vowel matching, Dr. Staheli regularly addressed tongue position and at times provided a tongue position chart for the ensemble. If a singer struggled with a vowel in a difficult part of his or her range, Dr. Staheli had that person modify the vowel or sing a different voice part for that passage. The individual singer and section. In Dr. Staheli's effort to form a unified tone, he needed to be familiar with the sound of his individual singers and sections. Knowing the abilities and limits of each voice was paramount. In rehearsals, he often made individuals aware when they were out of tune or when their voice quality was out of character for a piece. Dr. Staheli also knew when a student might be embarrassed by public correction and instead would guide with anonymous hints. Dr. Staheli used positive, corrective language. He would explain, "Let's make that line more musically fluid," or "lift the line here," or "pronounce that vowel with this tone in mind," instead of saying, "Don't sing that way." Intonation. Dr. Staheli believed that quality singing was directly associated with fine intonation. He frequently spoke of singing on the top edge of the pitch, using the imagery of resting the sound there from above to create space and a sense of effortlessness. He was also acutely aware that when ensembles forge their sound, doing whatever they must in order to create a big sound, their intonation suffers. Dr. Staheli understood the importance of diagnosing intonation problems at their root. He would ask himself and sometimes the ensemble, "Why is it out of tune? How are we going to solve this?" Dr. Staheli believed that he could, as a rule, see and hear intonation problems, thus allowing him to create a pedagogical blueprint for improvement. Dr. Staheli believed in the constant refining of tone quality. That task never ended. He worked tirelessly every year to create the most beautiful choral sound possible. Text. Dr. Staheli had a personal, impassioned belief in diction as a means of expression. He held that tonal color was not only fulfilled through sung vowels, but also through diction, and the two should be partnered in tonal construction. He would often demonstrate for BYU singers how the text should be sung. He would speak the text with abundant expressivity, expecting BYU singers to echo the details and fervor back to him. Even while working a different musical aspect, rhythm for example, if the ensemble parroted lifeless or monotonal phrases, he would gasp, "You are artists. Where did that come from? You can't speak those words like that. That's a sacrilege to sing beautiful poetry in that tone of voice." If he sensed an ensemble attitude of, "Are we not working on rhythm?" Dr. Staheli would continue, "We are working on rhythm, but that doesn't mean that the words are not important. Speak the words with your heart. Even though we are working on rhythm, never take the text for granted. Dr. Staheli was aware of the appropriate length of each consonant. He believed that the appropriate duration should always enhance and not detract from the artistry of the piece. Consonants were juiced for every bit of expressive potential because text warms the sound and it helps convey the meaning of the music. Textual lucidity was not just about understanding words, but also about recognizing and then using phrasing possibilities. The text aided the discovery of nuance that would enhance the larger phrasal construct. If a phrase began with "of the" on 2/8 notes, Dr. Staheli said, you're not going to give them equal time. You're going to probably push through those notes to highlight the subsequent text and musical material. He referred to this as robbing time. Less substantive words were de-emphasized using volume, color, and time, while more important words were enhanced using the same tools. These decisions considered text and rhythm, but primarily Dr. Staheli believed that musical time was dictated by the poetry, not the time signature. In rehearsal, he would say, "The road to hell is paved with metronomes," and "Did you graduate from the Javert School of Music? Don't sing in strict time." Dr. Staheli's nuanced rhythmic shape was a musical priority and artistic trademark. Dr. Staheli also incorporated phrasing choices by using syllabic stress and vowel choices based on the natural inflection of words. Rosalind Hall said, "It's hard for me to think of any conductor who accomplishes that exquisite expression of text that Ron accomplishes with phrasing through syllabic stress." This exquisite expression of text was partially rooted in natural pronunciation. He believed words should sound like they are spoken for the most part. Dr. Staheli strove for a clear and natural sound, but this did not mean that it was acceptable to distort the text with exaggerated enunciation. The music needed to flow without being interrupted by gratuitous diction. Dr. Staheli was able to manage this dictional tightrope through his own gesture and modeling. As Dr. Staheli studied each text, he identified the meaning and power within the text and considered how he would use his hands to show what he wanted to hear. His hands were constantly adapting to the musical and textual need of the piece. If curving his fingers, spreading them apart, or turning them sideways portrayed the tone or text more effectively, he would do it. Indeed, never two steps away from tone and text. Dr. Staheli treated conducting like an art form. He believed it required just as much attention to detail and skill as learning an instrument. Without this attention to detail, he did not feel a conductor could acquire the precision and artistry required to be effective. Between 2000 and 2008, Roz and Ron carefully and painstakingly crafted a conducting curriculum for BYU choral conducting students called Masterful Choral Conducting, which as of summer of 2019 was still available in the BYU bookstore. The text is accompanied by instructional DVDs that facilitated home practice that was reinforced in class. The curriculum is a detailed approach to the many technical aspects of conducting. The curriculum captured Dr. Staheli's approach to the technical science of conducting, while challenging students to understand this concept, finding and revealing every detail in the score, and that conductors must master every detail of precision to be artistic. He taught that successful conductors immerse themselves in learning everything they can about the conducting art, realizing that only through this mastery could conductors lead choirs to sing with humility, openness, and intellectual and artistic flexibility. Dr. Staheli felt the two skills conductors found most elusive were meaningful rebound and connection between music and conductor. He taught students that the rebound relayed the majority of artistic information. For Dr. Staheli, the beat pattern and ictus provided the substance of conducting. Essentially, what happens above those beats is music. He would ask his students, "What do you want me to feel when you're conducting?" After they had explained the emotion, he would respond, "Well, I'm not feeling that. You need to tell your soul that because I'm not feeling it." He fervently taught that conducting is much more than motion. It involves the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. Even when explaining dynamic gesture and masterful choral conducting, Dr. Staheli and Professor Hall implored students to personify body, mind, and soul. Conducting is more about feeling or being the dynamic level from the center of the soul, and then embodying the qualities and quantities of sound through physical gesture. At the conclusion of the Masterful Choral Conducting course, Dr. Staheli and Professor Hall share this bold statement. "It is a joy to see a conductor who not only captures the essence of the music in her expressive gestures, but also manages well the minute details so important in clear and expressive conducting. A conductor's passion for her art is immediately evident and contagious. Its brilliance illuminates and inspires all who take part in the music making, performers and listeners alike. It is the heart of every convincing, compelling performance, with the heady excitement that accompanies excellent music making. A conductor can all too easily lose sight of the boundaries of her role, sometimes insofar that the performance becomes more about her than the music. This is a betrayal of our art. The difficult questions revolve around our honest intentions as a conductor. When a conductor is motivated by recognition, adulation, and acclaim, her whole person declares it, no matter how hard she tries to pretend otherwise. The deeper the learning about music and the conducting art, the more humble, open, flexible one becomes. The more we become a link between the composer, the singers, and the aural realization of the music, the more we feel our role to be a privilege rather than a power which is our due. In the end, it is the music itself that speaks. It is the music that gives voice to the deepest feelings of our soul. As we seek to serve the music, we lose our own ego, our own separateness, and become one with the music. This must be our quest." Dr. Staheli exhibited a great sense of urgency and commitment during rehearsals, and he expected his students to bring a similar attitude. The principles of the psyche pervaded BYU Singers rehearsals and were referred to frequently. In addition to being concerned about the results of each rehearsal, he was perhaps more concerned with the heartfelt efforts shown by the students. These are some of the things you would expect to see in Dr. Staheli's rehearsals. Students were expected to come prepared for rehearsal. This meant reviewing problematic areas in their music on their own time. Rehearsals always began on time, and students were expected to be punctual. No out-of-turn chit-chatting from ensemble members. Students were expected to generously mark their scores. While working with one section, other sections were expected to actively be studying their own part and potential problem areas. Rehearsals were meticulously detailed and involved the finest points of tone, text, color, rhythm, intonation, dynamics, phrasing, and expression. Dr. Staheli outlined each rehearsal on paper with specific time allowances for individual pieces. This served as a guide for the rehearsal. Rehearsal order was written on the board with specific measure numbers listed. Students were expected to put their music in that order prior to beginning rehearsal. Dr. Staheli was unrelenting when it came to his own preparation for rehearsals. Prior to introducing a new piece, he prepared rigorously, with detailed score study that included textual, rhythmic, harmonic, and melodic analysis, as well as form. He wanted to understand the music's complete structural breakdown before ever rehearsing it. Dr. Staheli was relentless in his score study. He felt that choral conductors should dig deeply when preparing their music because choral music is worthy of that effort. Former BYU Singers used the following words to describe a Staheli rehearsal: focused, difficult, challenging, demanding, gently demanding, firm yet kind, uplifting, glorious, fulfilling, fun, stressful, exhausting, intense, positive, constructive, encouraging, humorous, persistent, inspirational, serious, spiritual, uncompromising, purposeful, specific, detailed, fully engaged, urgent, and loving. This meticulous examination into the philosophies of Dr. Staheli is worth studying. This presentation covers only a very small portion of his career in choral music. I encourage you to contact me so I may send you a PDF of the completed work. Not because I wrote it, it has nothing to do with me, but because of its content and ability to reach into our lives as conductor educators and fill us with inspiration to be the best musicians we can be, thus affecting the lives of our singers and students and bringing with it the surpassing force of beautiful music, indeed, beautiful artistry, into their lives and our lives.